Do you guys remember the first chapter of One Piece? Like, you read over 50 pages of the first chapter. Okay, I'm not trying to be super nostalgic here, but go back and reread those 51 pages. They mean so much more now than they did then because of their connection to the characters, specifically Luffy. You've seen the title. What we're talking about today is Luffy and Shanks, when they meet again. Of course, in this video as well, we'll entertain the possibility of them not meeting. However, we're gonna take this step by step. First off, like I do in most of my videos, I want you guys to give me your thoughts now. Do you think Luffy will meet Shanks? And why? Leave your thoughts below, because I'm always interested in how people think in regards to certain situations like this, because we don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, he might meet Shanks, he might not, but what do you guys think? But before we get to that, the first chapter of One Piece, over 50 pages. It was the establishing of Luffy's character and in some ways Shanks' character, but we don't know enough about Shanks to even say that, because there's a lot of mystery there. The first chapter in One Piece, I think, was there to establish that dynamic, not only of Luffy and Shanks, but between Shanks and his crew. The type of crew that Shanks has and how Luffy unintentionally has mirrored Shanks' crew. Of course, personalities are not going to be the same, but the point of Luffy mirroring Shanks' crew was to gather a crew of people that he trusts. Not just to gather strong people, but to gather people of strong character. And that's right in line with Oda's portrayal of Luffy as a character and his power, so to speak. Luffy's great at reading people. So creating a crew with people of undying loyalty, please do not mention Whole Cake Island, it was almost inevitable. Quick side note, I always wondered why Shanks didn't want Luffy to join his crew, because he was, I guess he was too young. That's what Shanks said, and he's not ready. However, Shanks was super young on Roger's crew as well. If I remember, he was like 10 or 11, something like that. So him not wanting Luffy on his crew, never understood it. Regardless, this much is clear. Shanks is Luffy's role model. A lot of the ideals that Luffy has and things he holds dear comes directly from the Shanks influence, from treasuring friends, being lighthearted, but knowing when to take things seriously. Ben Beckman offered some insight in regards to Shanks not wanting Luffy to be on the crew. He asked Luffy to understand Shanks' feelings. He says, he knows that being a pirate is interesting, but he also knows that a pirate's life is hard and very dangerous. My side note about Shanks not wanting Luffy on his crew even though he was young on Roger's crew was to bring about this point. Shanks didn't want Luffy to join him as a pirate that young, because who else would know better just how difficult it is to be on a pirate crew with grown men as a child. So for Shanks, I'm pretty sure he enjoyed his experiences with Roger and his pirate crew, but he wanted Luffy to become more mature and to honestly carve out his own path. Luffy versus Bellamy is something I always wanted to discuss and delve into because it goes past the Shanks influence in my opinion, but the obvious thing here is that Luffy was copying Shanks, or I don't want to say copy because I don't think Luffy goes out of his way to carbon copy Shanks. However, the things that Shanks holds, like ideals, qualities, Luffy embodies those. So not hitting Bellamy initially, because of him not believing in Luffy's dream and laughing at the fact of him wanting to become Pirate King, obviously mirrors Shanks in the bar versus the bandits. There's no direct parallel here between Luffy and Shanks, and I'm not trying to force one, because as prevalent as parallels are in One Piece, and we see them from time to time, Oda makes a point to make journeys different even though scenarios could be the same. Even though Shanks went and sought out different members of his pirate crew like Yasopp, and then we had Roger and Rayleigh, Luffy's crew came together organically. And you get the same feeling from Shanks' crew. Of course, we don't know how they all met, but the feeling of wanting to be around each other, striving towards the same goal. All of those came from Shanks. I say all that to say this. There are few things in One Piece that are guaranteed to happen because it's a story, things happen. One of the things that I thought was destined to happen was Ace and Luffy fighting for the One Piece. Before I got caught up, while I was reading One Piece, at the end of Alabasta, even though Ace wanted to make Whitebeard king, it was obvious that Whitebeard was an older pirate, and I thought at some point, Ace was going to be the one to take over. And you felt that even at Marineford. So I thought at the end, Luffy and Ace would meet again, and they would have to fight for the Pirate King. Obviously, things didn't go that way. Things went severely left. Ace is now dead, Whitebeard is now dead, and a relative unknown from his crew, Blackbeard, has taken over, and he's now a Yonko. It's interesting that Blackbeard has had interactions with Ace, Luffy, and Shanks. You can say he's the catalyst for Ace's death and responsible for them being apart now, and he may be the catalyst for Shanks and Luffy being apart permanently, like Ace. Even though it could be consensus that we agree that Blackbeard kills Shanks. Where I made a video a few months ago talking about, I don't know if it's gonna play out that way because it's too obvious, but like I was saying, there are few things in One Piece that's destined to happen. 1, Luffy at some point will be fighting for the title of Pirate King. 2, Zoro at some point will be fighting for the title of the world's strongest swordsman versus Mihawk or Shiryu, which is the popular theory. Who knows? And 3, Luffy will definitely meet Shanks again. There's a lot of people that feel like Shanks does not need to meet Luffy again. Take it back to Marineford, when Shanks could have met Luffy at that point. Shanks could have broken the promise that they made together by seeing Luffy, and even Lucky Roo said, Shanks, it's been 10 years. Don't you even want to see him? Shanks says, I would love to, but again, that would break your promise to me, Luffy, wouldn't it? Whereas Luffy promised Shanks he would return the hat once he became a great pirate. Obviously at Marineford, he was not a great pirate. And I think Shanks' perspective was that even though he didn't know the details, Shanks would know when someone is ready. Even Luffy's new bounty reaction. Shanks said, you're almost ready to meet me, Luffy. I think the final step is him actually overcoming someone, where they said he overcame Big Mom by escaping her territory. He didn't actually beat Big Mom, he beat her commanders, but he didn't actually beat Big Mom. Something profound that Shanks said to Luffy, well, not directly to him, but after the burial of Ace and Whitebeard. Shanks said it's through knowing both victory and defeat, running wild and shedding tears, that a man truly grows up. Don't be afraid to cry. Make it through this. Essentially, Shanks was saying through this experience, you will grow stronger. And we saw that from the catalyst of Ace's death, Luffy has grown considerably stronger. Now to them meeting again, what's the tone? What's the setting? I know the popular thing is after Wano. Maybe they meet before Elbaf, on Elbaf, because Shanks and his boat and different things with his lineage has ties to Elbaf. I think when they meet again, it would be a quick spar. Of course, on Luffy's end to show that he's a great pirate, and from Shanks' side to test him. And then Luffy offers the hat back to Shanks, saying, hey, it's not as brand new as when you gave it to me. It's a bit tattered, right? It's been through a lot, but here you go. I kept my promise. Then Shanks declines. And Shanks says, no, you've earned this hat. Plus, it looks much better on you. I'm sure they have discussions at that point about Blackbeard because Luffy's now a grown-up, right? He's a great pirate. You can have those discussions with him. And Shanks may tell him, my goal right now is to take down Blackbeard before he becomes any more of a threat. And even if Shanks loses to Blackbeard, he doesn't have to die, but that initial meeting between Shanks and Luffy has to happen. This was set up at the beginning of One Piece. This meeting, the purpose of the journey is to become the Pirate King, but Shanks' validation is part of the reason why Luffy set out to be a pirate. Part of the reason why he does it. The fact that Ace went out of his way to go meet Shanks and thank Shanks for not only saving Luffy's life, and of course Luffy is indebted to Shanks because of that, it's a lot of weight there and reasons as to why Luffy definitely has to see Shanks before he dies, assuming he does. In a nutshell, I think they definitely meet again. I think they have a quick spar. Maybe they have a fight between the crews, because another small point, not small, another forgotten aspect of Luffy and Shanks meeting is Usopp and Yasopp meeting. There's a lot of layers to this, or I should say a lot of tentacles to this. And I think these things have to happen in the One Piece story. It's too much weight that it carries. So like I said at the beginning, we're also going to entertain the idea of Shanks not actually meeting Luffy at the end. So just like Shanks meeting Luffy, if Shanks does not meet Luffy, there are several things to consider. First off, the beginning of the series and that moment being set up, not being met, and the expectations of the fan base not getting that moment and satisfaction of Luffy and Shanks reuniting. I'm not sure if Oda would be able to do that. Secondly, if Shanks doesn't meet Luffy again, that would mean that he's dead. Going by the timeline of events and things that we presume is going to happen in regards to like Elbaf and then the world government stuff at the end, essentially the Shanks versus Blackbeard stuff would be going on either at the end of Wano, like while Luffy's fighting Big Mom and Kaido. So I suppose concurrently Luffy is fighting Kaido and Big Mom, and Blackbeard is fighting Shanks. So then Shanks falls, Big Mom falls, and Kaido falls. So then as Yonko, I suppose we're left with Luffy and Blackbeard. Shanks' death, a lot of people have talked about it and said that that's something that should happen. Narratively, I can see why it makes a lot of sense. Luffy, in a roundabout kind of way, lost Ace to Blackbeard. It would build up some more tension as well if he lost Shanks to Blackbeard, the shock value of it. But at this point, if it does happen, I don't think it'd be a shock to the fan base because a lot of people see that happening. It's almost like Aokiji being a revolutionary. If that was the case, it wouldn't be a shock because a lot of people presume that's something he would do. I think the main thing to discuss here, though, is the impact on Luffy. If Luffy's not able to achieve that one dream, or one of the main goals he had at the beginning of the story, to give Shanks his hat back, honestly the catalyst to him becoming what he is now. I feel like that was covered with Ace and covered throughout the time skip, telling Luffy he wasn't good enough, like pre-time skip rather. In Sabaody losing to the pacifistas and losing to Kizaru, those were the important moments in which Luffy had to learn that he wasn't strong enough and there was nothing, literally nothing he could do about it. Him losing Shanks to Blackbeard and not being able to meet him again, I don't see the lesson there. I want Luffy to meet Shanks again. That's what I would enjoy. But if he doesn't, the final fight with Blackbeard will have so much more weight, which would lead to the intensity and emotion being through the roof. While I don't agree that this is something that would happen, I can understand why people would want that. But guys, let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about it? Do you think Shanks will meet Luffy again? And what do you think happens at that initial meeting? Because I think it's going to be fantastic. Again, leave your thoughts below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Again, like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.